Hi, I'm Ted Price, President of Insomniac Games, and today we're going to be giving you a quick tour of Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, Insomniac's newest game to be released on the PlayStation 2 this fall. After brainstorming for a long time on Ratchet & Clank Going Commando in the initial phases, we came up with brand new approaches to major areas of the game. The major changes that we implemented were a new experience-based character growth system, weapons, upgrades, and mods, Maxi games, Spherical worlds, more sophisticated enemy behavior, new technology, and a new story and a brand new personality for Ratchet. So let's begin by discussing the character growth system that we've implemented for Ratchet & Clank Going Commando. In the original Ratchet & Clank, we started with 4 units of nanotech, or hit points if you will. In Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, you once again start with 4 units of nanotech, and here's an example of 1 unit as it's shown in the game. But by the end of the game, you can earn up to 80 units. This is a huge difference from Ratchet & Clank, the original. So how do you earn this nanotech? Well, you've got to kill enemies. Each time you kill an enemy, you get nanomites, which is our equivalent of experience. The nanomites are collected in this bar. When the bar fills up, you get another nanotech unit. In other words, your maximum health increases. So basically, Ratchet gets significantly stronger in terms of hit points as he's progressing through the game. Ratchet also gets to equip armor. In fact, in addition to his regular commando suit, which he starts with, there are 4 types of armor that he can purchase and use. Armor cuts down the damage done by enemy attacks. Not only does Ratchet get tougher, the enemies get tougher too. We've increased enemy hit points significantly since Ratchet & Clank. As you can see, the small enemies aren't too much of a problem, but by the end of the game, they're already tougher than most of the characters in Ratchet & Clank, the original. Medium enemies go from 2 to 20 hit points, large enemies go from 2 to 60 hit points, and massive enemies go all the way up to 120 hit points. By contrast, most of the enemies in Ratchet & Clank had no more than 3 hit points. Enemy attack damages increase significantly as well to offset Ratchet's increases in health. In Ratchet & Clank, enemies always cause 1 point of damage. Now, our enemies can do up to 35 points of damage during an attack. Those are the big enemies. You don't encounter them very often, but if you do, they're going to kick your butt if they hit you. Enemies also show up with more armor as the game progresses, just like Ratchet. This creates additional challenges for the player. Now let's talk a little bit about weapon upgrades. Now with tougher enemies, Ratchet's got to be able to do more damage as the game progresses, and that's why we've introduced weapon upgrades. Each weapon has a nanomite, or experience, bar, which fills up a little bit more every time you kill an enemy with that particular weapon. When the bar is completely filled, an upgrade is triggered. These upgrades increase the damage that the weapons do, and in most cases, it changes the functionality for each of the weapons. For example, here are the first 2 weapons you get in the game, and their upgrades. First, we've got the Lancer. This upgrades to the Heavy Lancer. Then we've got the Gravity Bomb. This upgrades to the Mini Nuke. As you can see, the upgrades are significantly more powerful than the original weapons and are another reward for players as they move through the game. In Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, we've got a lot of new weapons. There are 20 brand new weapons, 18 of which can be upgraded. Since each upgrade is very different from the original, that's really more like 38 new weapons. Plus, we've also got other special items. Some of the weapons can be outfitted with special mods. These mods do post-attack damage. We have a poison mod, an electricity mod, etc. And they can only be fitted to the weapons at special illegal modification shops that the player finds throughout the game. We're also bringing back some favorite weapons from Ratchet & Clank, the original. If a player has a memory card with a Ratchet & Clank 1 save, then he'll be able to purchase those particular weapons for free. What would a Ratchet & Clank game be without some cool new gadgets? We've got 11 brand new gadgets, each of which provides brand new gameplay content. You always have an opportunity to go back to earlier levels and build up your nanotech, upgrade your weapons, even make money to buy new, more powerful weapons. So if a player feels like he can't progress any further because the enemies are too tough, well, go back to an earlier level and start building up. This is really a hallmark of RPGs that isn't seen very frequently in platformer games, but for us, it's a great way to ensure that both the hardcore players and the novice players really get a great gameplay experience.
Hello, my name is Brian Allgaier. I'm the design director of Insomniac Games. In Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, we have Maxi games. They are different than mini games in that Maxi games can be played repeatedly. New challenges are introduced and they create much more depth than your typical run-of-the-mill mini game. In Ratchet & Clank, the original, we had mini games. Those were one-offs. You'd play them once and you pretty much wouldn't want to see them again. But with Maxi games, we've made these games such that players would like to return and actually play them over and over for bolts and XP and plus to upgrade their weapons. 3 of the Maxi games in Ratchet & Clank Going Commando are hoverbike races, arena challenges, and space combats. In gladiator arenas, Ratchet is pitted against hordes of gladiators. For the first part of the Maxi game, he has to fight for the electrolyzer, and he fights numerous enemies. But then later on, he gets to open up more challenges, where he can fight Chainblade, one of our gladiator bosses, also the B2 Brawler. Then later he's pitted against gladiators in different challenges, like a time challenge, where he has to defeat 30 enemies in 30 seconds, or kill all enemies with 200 Lancer shots. Each one of these challenges within the Maxi game becomes more and more challenging, more complex, and offers higher bolt rewards. So it gives players more of an incentive to fight for XP and money. In Ratchet & Clank 1, we had some flying challenges, but they weren't nearly as involved as the space combat found in Ratchet & Clank Going Commando. In Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, it's all about firepower. You get to keep your same ship, but you also get upgrades that make it stronger, give it better weapons, and make it go faster. The reason why Space Combat's a Maxi game is that once you finish the required portion of the challenge, you can always return to make more money. Ratchet Clank Going Commando also has hoverbike racing. In hoverbike racing, the players pitted against multiple racers to win the grand prize. Once they've completed that race, they can return where additional weapons will get unlocked, and they can fight against these super fast racers in order to win additional bolts. Another great feature that we have in the game are spherical worlds. These are small little moonlets that Ratchet can completely circumnavigate. He can run anywhere around these worlds. And plus, he can jump on these jump pads to get these enormous altitudes where he can look down and see like the entire world. In previous games, we didn't spend a lot of time on making the enemies intelligent. We thought more about the weapon strategies and how enemies were taken out with the weapons, but we didn't really give them enough life. In Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, we have different AI systems that we're using. Here are some of the rules that we established. No sleeping on the job. Enemies just don't stand around in their standard idle state looking left and right waiting for Ratchet to show up. They're actually doing something. Extra points for a stylish entry. Enemies will teleport in, they'll jump in, they'll ambush Ratchet. There will always be something interesting and surprising about how they're introduced. Keep an eye on Ratchet. Enemies know that Ratchet's still there when he leaves. They don't just go back into their slumber state. They will either fire at him if he's hiding, or they'll run and hide, or they'll panic. And teamwork. Enemies work within groups. We have many situations where we have these enemies gathering around Ratchet, some jumping into the fray, others holding their position. All of this adds up to what we think will be a much more challenging experience for the players.
My name is Al Hastings, and I work on technology at Insomniac Games on Ratchet & Clank Going Commando. Well, we've gone into each of the core engines and improved things like lighting and multipass texturing effects, and we've focused on ways to improve special effects and the visual presentation of the levels. We've worked a lot on memory compression to allow more animation and more objects. In a lot of levels we're seeing nearly twice the animation that we saw in Ratchet 1.
I'm Oliver Wade, the animation director at Insomniac Games. This is the first scene in the game. This is where Ratchet and Clank are on a show called Behind the Hero. They're talking to an interviewer about what they've been up to since the end of the last adventure.
Welcome back to Behind the Hero. Tonight's heroes are the duo who recently restored peace and order to our galaxy, Ratchet and Clank. So, gentlemen, tell us about your latest incredible adventures.
Well, as you can imagine, we've been pretty busy. After Drek's defeat, there were parades, press conferences, fancy dress balls.
And the wiener roast at Al's.
Oh, yeah, that. And then things started to slow down a bit. After that, well...
There was the grand opening at Groovy Lube.
Right. I think that was last week.
6 months ago.
We're still pretty busy, but in a more, domestic sense.
Yesterday, I flushed out my radiator core.
I guess no one needs a hero right now.
Immediately after this interview, they are contacted by a character named Mr. Fizzwidget. He is the head of a company called Megacorp in the Bogon Galaxy. He needs help in rescuing the experiment, which was stolen from their corporation by a masked figure. And he sees these two characters as just the type of heroic figures that he needs to get his experiment back.
Welcome!
What the...
I'm Abercrombie Fizzwidget, founder of the Megacorp Company in the Bogon Galaxy.
Bogon?
I'm sorry to incapacitate you, but our entire galaxy is in a very precocious situation. I must humbly request your sustenance on a mission of dire urgitude, a mission of superfluous peril, a mission of unequivocal imperitude.
Did that make any sense?
So, you need me to go on a dangerous mission in another galaxy.
Indubitably! A few days ago, this top-secret biological experiment was stolen from our testing lavatory by this dupliferous criminal mastermind, and I need you to get the experiment back.
We'll do it!
We will?
Frank, I have precipitated your recalcitrance and have made special improvisations for you. We are prepared to give you a job as the head accountant for Megacorp, plus a penthouse suite in lovely Megapolis, and our state-of-the-art robotic masseuse.
Deal.
As for you, Ratchet, I'll need you in superlatory shape. While in transit to the Bogon Galaxy, you will undergo heavy training and conditioning, including martial arts, heavy weaponry, survival skills, stealth, macrame, ballroom dance, and origami.
We'll be bringing back some of the characters from the first Ratchet & Clank, including Captain Quark, who does appear in a series of exposés throughout the game, and you see kind of what happened to him since the last one as well, his sort of fall from grace, and they're pretty funny.
The man, the myth, the legend, the loser. Captain Quark, once the idol of everyone in the galaxy, has finally hit rock bottom. After his humiliation at the hands of Ratchet and Clank, Quark sold bogus merchandise he claimed were Gadgetron products. But a key defect in this product, the Personal Hygienator, caused severe irritation in sensitive body areas and alerted authorities to Quark's scam. Behind the Hero will return after these messages.
We have a new group of enemies. It's an organization known as Thugs for Less. They are mercenaries for hire that will basically take on anyone as long as they get paid enough to do it. They have the thug leader who Ratchet confronts at several times during the game in pretty extreme battles. The difference you'll see in Ratchet this time is he's a little more mature than he was in the previous effort. He's definitely learned from his experiences in the past and has a lot more serious attitude. He has a job to do and is very focused on getting that done. He still has a little bit of a fun quality about him, but he definitely has a lot more focus this time.
Sir, ready for launch.
Two things we wanted to keep intact as far as storytelling goes is one is humor, and the other is a lot of twists and turns in the story.
Hello, yes, hey! No, oh, man. Yes, I need to order 2 more containers of sulfuric acid. It's down! Oops, better make that 5 containers and 4 containers of liquid hydrogen. Oops, better add 6 crates of nitroglycerin and... Ow! Look, just give me double fast or... Ow! And I need it delivered.
We hope you've enjoyed this glimpse into Ratchet & Clank Going Commando. It's going to be coming out this fall, fall 2003, and we'll be showing more and more as we get closer to the release. Thank you very much for watching. I'm just going to ask you questions, and you can just spew.
Okay.
Where does the story begin?
You sure I can't look at you? It's really weird to look right into the camera.
Look at me.
You're always taught not to do that.
So after a lot of brainstorming, we came up with new brains.
Let me do it one more time. Okay.
Since the last time they crud.
It's okay.
All right.
It really has to be seen to be believed.
After a lot of brainstorming, we came up with brand new approaches in several major. Good thing I'm not an actor. Good thing I can edit myself here. You have a lot of tape, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of a pain in the ass to
tapes
edit.
in the box.
Okay.
One of the reasons that this is a Maxi game is that once you've gone through the required. Okay, I'll do it again.
Does it sound like I'm reading it? It does.
Guessing. Make sure that they understand the story, but occasionally just move it a little bit so to. Oh, crud!
That was really good.
Getting close.
Yeah.
When we finished Ratchet and Clank, when we finished the original Ratchet, when we finished